This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Zamfara has spent a total of 13.4 billion naira clearing a backlog of expected pensions since 2011. The Honourable Commissioner, our newsmaker, joins us on the line this morning. Good morning and welcome, Honourable Commissioner.
Good morning, Nabila. Good to be here.
Welcome to the conversation. To begin with this morning, I guess the biggest story as far as Zamfara State is concerned has to be the 13.4 billion naira in unpaid pensions. Now, as the stories put it out, this is something that the government of Governor Dauda Lawal inherited from previous administrations. How is this administration going about tackling this burden?
All right. First of all, let me start by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the opportunity to be awake today and then to be here. It's really a great pleasure, and I thank you for that. So when we talk about the pension and gratuity in the Forest State, I think a few months ago, I had an interview that went viral across the country about how the previous administrations squandered and looted the gratuity funds, which obviously, when you look at that, I believe there is no place in this earth that somebody could do that and then get away with it. When we talk about pensioners and gratuity payments, we know these are people that serve their state or their country for over 30 years or 35 years. And these are their little savings that they do in every single month. In 2007, Zamfara State subscribed into the contributory pension scheme with PENCOM. And since that time, the tradition and then the law was the employee will contribute and then the employer will contribute. In the history of Zamfara State, there has never been a time where the employer contributed. It was only the employee that were contributing. So in every single month from 2007, there has been deduction from the accounts of the civil servants in Zamfara State. And then when we came on board, we realized the employer never, which is the state in this position, never contributed their own any penny into this account. But then there were deductions made from the accounts of the civil servant. And those deductions, when we check, not all the deductions were remitted to the account that we subscribe to the contributory. Now, this is very important. That means the state has breached the agreement and the subscription criteria in which they designed that contributory pension scheme. And then we realized some of the gratuity contribution of the employees were looted in ways that nobody can imagine. Imagine a person sacrificing his life for 30 years and 35 years. Now, if he started alone, as a young person like me, if a person got his job in the first state at the age of 25 to 30, and then he spent 30 years. Now, it is not just about him. It is about his family. He would have to have a wife and children, and in some cases, even grandchildren. So you can imagine all his savings were looted and then dashed away for contracts. For example, the UBEC in Zamfara State, for over 9 years, there were no remittance, but there were deductions, but no remittance. So when this administration came on board, we realized what defines the capacity of leadership, what defines the enthusiasm and then the capacity of a state. It's not how it relates with the powerful or the mighty. It's how it relates with the vulnerable ones. And now when a person served for 25 to 30 years, I believe that person is vulnerable because he has contributed his own quota in the development of the state. And now His Excellency made sure that he is not going to wait until during the election time or the next, by God's grace, the next term of his election.
So,
time of
Honorable
his office.
Commissioner, let me interrupt you for a moment. I mean, your figures say that there were 3,079 retirees that were confirmed by the administration. Speak to us about that process of confirmation. Speak to us about perhaps how many claims were made, why you had to even go through that verification process in the first place.
Yes, okay. So first of all, immediately when His Excellency got into office, there were a lot of complaints, and then he constituted a committee, which I was a member of the committee, and then the now present head of service was the chairman of the committee, and our commissioner of finance was part of the committee too. So what we did, we started investigating right from beginning to see. Now we realized initially there were over bloated numbers of ghost workers because a time frame of 11 years, you can imagine, or to 12 years, you can imagine all the hurdles that would be aligned to that. Now we made our report, we did our research, we came to Abuja, Pencom, we asked all the former head of service that were in that office, and then the Palm Sex, the director salary and wages in the first, all of them within this period of time. And then even the NLC, we invited them and then we had a conversation about them. And then we printed all the documentation in terms of the deduction receipts, in terms of statement of account, so we can have an accountability of it. And then we arrived to a total of the 13 billion naira, both for the state government and the local government. And now when we've compiled our report and then we submitted it to His Excellency, now Excellency constituted another committee now which relates to the Accountant General and some of the directors in the Ministry of Finance. And then he said they should start verifying and making this payment. So the verification process is, if you are a pensioner, if you have retired and there are some gratuities that you are held, you haven't been paid for over 12 years, you come forth, your numbers are there, your civil service file and what have you would come there. And in some cases, most of these people that died, their children were the ones to come and then mix their documentation and the court and then access their fundings. So far, this is the number that we have arrived at, and it is ongoing. We'll keep on going to that number and making sure that all these liabilities in terms of with regards to gratuity are settled and are paid so that the state can move forward as decent as possible, because I do not believe we can thrive or we can move forward without really taking care of these important liabilities, because these are different from the liabilities we see. Because when I check the books as Commissioner of Budget, most of the liabilities are contracts awarded to companies. Companies are big and they can thrive and they can do well. And some of the contract you can see they are given to some politicians with some exuberant amount of resources. But when we talk about these people, a number of thousands of individuals that are trying to put food on their table for their children and for themselves, and some they even have medical challenges. And some of them, it's even pilgrimage they plan to do with these resources. And then you can see the excitement in their kids' faces when they collect this money. After all, their parents are dead.
Mr. Commissioner,
and then
I do apologize for interrupting you. The budget for Zamfara State this year is 426 billion naira, if I'm getting my figures right. And approximately, we're looking at 13.4 billion as far as pensions, unpaid pensions are concerned. Is there a timeline to clear up this backlog? And I'm asking this because if we look at percentages, it's probably 3% or a little over 3% of the Zamfara State budget. So is this something that this administration can clear up within the first year of its being in office?
Yes, I can guarantee you that, because you see, I let me go back to the point I made. His Excellency do not believe that we would get Zamfara to where we want it to be without settling liabilities like this, because it has to do with decency. It has to do with taking care of the vulnerable ones. And we believe with the urban renewal that he has started, because now there are a lot of urban roads that are being built in Zamfara State. Let me take you back. When His Excellency came on board, all the government, public buildings, they are cut off of lights. Why? Because there were liability of almost 900 million naira in that. When we came on board, there was no water supply in the state capital, which is Gusau. His Excellency made sure that was rectified through a committee he created, and then he made sure the water board has all the supplies they want. When we came on board, for over 3 years, every single young person that finished his SS2, SS3, and wants to go to university could not access result, and some could not even sit and write their WAEC result because the state could not afford, did not pay, they did not deem it important to pay for the children of the vulnerable people in the forest to sit for their WAEC. And then His Excellency also, through the BESDA program under Ministry of Education, he awarded, now the work is ongoing, he awarded a contract of renovation and reconstruction of over 200 schools across the states. And we have seen the supply. He went to the UNICEF headquarters in America and he got the support of medication that we are now supplying to all of our primary health cares. And this list goes on. Now we are trying control, because you cannot govern a people without having their confidence. Now, if people know that when they finish their work, when they retire, government is going to hold their gratuity and it will not pay them. Imagine the psychological damage that could do to a director, or that could do to a permanent secretary.
So, Honorable Commissioner, if I may, this then begs the question of what would then happen? What will the administration of Governor Dauda Lawal do to make sure that this does not repeat itself again? I think back to 2022 when there was an announcement that the Zamfara state government had pulled itself out of CPS, had enacted its own law around pension schemes and whatnot. And of course, we've seen, you yourself have just spoken about how that did not benefit retirees at all. So how does the administration intend to make sure that a succeeding administration will actually stick with what Governor Lawal has now done?
Well, first of all, what we are doing now in project management, there is this application that we do in managing issue that we call freezing and unfreezing management. What that means is, if you have an ice block, if you say you want to take something in the middle of that ice block, then you are going to break the whole ice block and nobody would benefit from it. What you do, you bring it out from that freezer and then you unfreeze it, and then easily you can pick the changes that you want from the middle of that ice block and then put it back. Now, what we are doing is, this is the situation at hand. One, built-in confidence of this civil servant that we are a government that cares for you. We are a government that is not going to extort you. And we are a government that we would put everything on hold until we settle all of this, your liabilities. And now, immediately when we have that, His Excellency has already appointed me as the chairman of the Financial Management Reform Committee. Now, what this means is, we are not going to be doing things in a very manual way. That opens door for corruption. That does not even take us to the land that we want, because our books cannot be accessed by international financial institutions. So we are trying to be part of the international standard accounting reporting system of the world. With that, now there has to be technology, and then it is going to be a computer system that tells you your time of retirement has come near, or you have to retire and so date, and these are the amounts that were deducted. You can even see them online. They were deducted from your account, and this is the contribution. Because immediately after this, we are going to re-engage ourselves into a contributory pension scheme, because then calls the question, if we keep it the way it is unsustainable. But if we do a contributory, by the time each and every single month, the state government is putting in its percentage, and then the employees also are be getting deduction and then putting in, by the time they retire, it would be based on the, it would be beneficial to the retiree and then to the state government. Because in the world, in international community, when you look at it, pension funds are even used for PPPs. When some of these countries want to build highway routes, when they want to build some mega insurance scheme, when they want to build in some of these things, they use this pension funds because it's long term. So there are even development that we can absolutely harness through making sure these things are good. Because let me tell you something. You see, the bubble we are in 2003, the population of Zamfara State was 3.3 million. Now, based on our social register from the State Bureau of Statistics, we have over 5.8 million individuals. And now, based on some of the reports from INGOs in Zamfara State, over 70% of our population are under multidimensional poverty rate. Now, this is alarming. And now, the dependency ratio in Zamfara State, that means the young people are becoming many. And then now, the people that are to care for them are not many. That one is a recipe for disaster if we do not take care of this. And now let me just tell you this fact that we are dealing with in Zamfara State. Just yesterday, I have them remove some extract from our social register. We have over 400 communities that do not have access to any education facility within 3 kilometers from their community. That means all these communities cannot have access to primary schools, all the young girls that we have, all the young boys that we have in those rural communities. And now we have over 200 communities also that do not have access to any health facility within 2-3 kilometers of their communities. And last time when I came, with all the indices and the numbers that we have, it's all down. Now, the enrollment ratio of our students in primary school annually is 603,000. By the time they transit from that primary education to junior secondary school, that 603 number reduces to 83,000. And now when they move from SS1 to 3, which is the senior secondary school, that number also reduces 7,000. Now I ask you a question. If we continue in this trajectory, when there is a lot of in that state, when we have young people more than the old age, when we have over 70% under multidimensional poverty, and 90% of the young age are under this multidimensional poverty, and they do not have access to classrooms or to schools to go through a civilized process of education so they can be part of the international world and they can have a better way of thinking. Do you think Zamfara State is going to be a sustainable state for anyone to govern in the future?
Commissioner,
No.
that's a very good question, and it's the points that we are going to end the conversation on for now. I would like to thank you for speaking with us. We will definitely need to do a follow-up with you because you've mentioned a lot of areas that are key for Zamfara State, and I would say Nigeria as well. The young demographic that you have and the plans to ensure that they get education. These are two key areas that we will definitely catch up with you in the very near future to expand a bit more on. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Our guest on the conversation this morning, the newsmaker for this week, is Abdul Malik Gajam, the Zamfara State Commissioner for Budget and Planning, and he joined us to speak on a number of issues in Zamfara State, including how the state government is dealing with the weight of 13.4 billion naira pensions, unpaid pensions that it inherited from past administrations. Join us on our next edition of the Newsmaker, but for now Breakfast continues with Community Watch in just a moment. Do stay with us.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM.